Hello, I'm John Gaver, author of The Rich Don't Pay Tax, or Do They? And I would like to take a few minutes to expose a very common myth that has been perpetrated about the fair tax. The myth that I'm talking about is that tax evasion would increase under the fair tax. But as you'll see in a few moments, the fact is that far from tax evasion being worse, there will actually be much less tax evasion under the fair tax. You see, we currently have roughly 157 million taxpayers in the United States. And since under any form of income tax, it takes only the person filling out the form to commit tax fraud, every taxpayer represents an opportunity for tax evasion. And that doesn't change substantially under a flat income tax or a VAT. But under the fair tax, we're dealing only with about 25 million retail businesses. And under any form of sales tax, for tax evasion to occur, at least one of those retailers would have to be involved. This translates to just 1/6 as many opportunities for tax evasion under the fair tax as exists under any method of taxation other than the fair tax. So to turn this around, for tax evasion to be as bad under the fair tax as under any form of income tax, 6 times as many people would have to be willing to commit tax fraud. That's not going to happen. But then consider that evading a sales tax takes at least 2 people acting in concert. So this means that it would take 12 times more people being willing to commit tax fraud. That's really not going to happen. But it gets even better. From the 45 states where sales taxes are currently collected, we know that the point of sale and inventory systems used by the national chains make tax evasion at those businesses virtually impossible. So what this means is that under the fair tax, only 10% of sales tax revenue would come from sources where tax evasion is even a possibility. So it follows that for fair tax evasion to be as bad as income tax evasion, it would take a whopping 120 times more people being willing to commit tax fraud. But we're not done yet. It gets even better. Anytime that 2 unrelated parties collude to commit a crime, a second more serious crime has been committed. It's called conspiracy, and it generally carries its own penalty, making the total sentence more severe. So what this means is that for tax evasion to be as bad as under any form of income tax, 120 times more people would have to be willing to commit a more serious crime. But it doesn't even end there. You see, tax auditors who've audited both income and sales taxes tell us that it's far easier to spot attempted tax evasion under a sales tax than under an income tax. Because under a sales tax, there are no elaborate tax shelters or loopholes for auditors to deal with. And it leaves a paper trail involving 2 people. It's very straightforward. So what all this means is that for tax evasion to be as bad under the fair tax as under any form of income tax, not only would 120 times more people have to be willing to commit a more serious crime, but a crime that is more easily detected than income tax evasion. Think about it. It's not going to happen. So the next time someone tries to tell you that tax evasion would increase under the fair tax, you know they're trying to perpetrate a myth. Go back through this video again and work the numbers for yourself. It cannot be denied. The facts shatter this myth because they show conclusively that tax evasion will be dramatically reduced under the fair tax. I encourage you to learn more about the fair tax. Check out fairtax.org. Then to learn even more, read The Rich Don't Pay Tax, or Do They? And also watch for the upcoming book, The Tax Deception. But whatever you do, I urge you to support the fair tax and candidates who support the fair tax and oppose those who pander for votes by peddling a flat income tax scheme that they know won't stay flat. The fair tax is the only tax reform plan that makes further tampering with the rate politically hazardous, will dramatically improve tax compliance, and will absolutely abolish the IRS. Thank you.